We are very lucky to have one of Australia's preeminent speakers on Bitcoin. 2 days ago, the first UK house was purchased using Bitcoin, actually 2 weeks behind Australia, because 2 weeks ago, the first Australian house was purchased using Bitcoin. So there's a great groundswell, and it's quite interesting because you've still got the naysayers and the conspiracy theorists who say, no, this is a load of old hogwash. But as Jennings is about to talk about, now the big banks have finally got off sitting on their hands and are starting to invest themselves. Over to Jennings.
I'm not actually going to be here giving investment advice today, so unfortunately don't bank on anything I say, but I seem to have kind of timed this topic fairly well in terms of it just absolutely exploding over the last kind of 3 months. But also what kind of really brought it to my attention was this £30 million home in Notting Hill in London being sold, and bids were being requested in Bitcoin. In 2010, the first ever Bitcoin transaction was made. A young man in America purchased 2 pizzas worth $42 with Bitcoin, okay? Those pizzas would now be worth $75 million. That's probably old now because I haven't actually recalculated it. It makes the total growth of Apple stock since 1981, which is about 34,500%, look completely irrelevant. So what Bitcoin is here to try and do is create this peer-to-peer transaction, but without a third party verifying it. It's decentralized. There isn't the federal government bank of Bitcoin. There's not the International Bitcoin Fund. There's no massive third party behind it. It's completely decentralized and is simply run by everyone who uses Bitcoin. It's finite. I think this is a massive aspect. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoins. And finally, it's secure. This is another thing we have to think about. Whilst you might think, oh, it's a digital currency, it can be hacked. This has a security profile unlike any kind of digital currency we've ever seen before. What we're creating there is each piece of paper is effectively a block of financial transactions, which is then sealed, and a new one comes out, and that's going to be linked to the next one. The chain element, the chain that's linking each of these blocks together. It is effectively just a database. It's a database in terms of Bitcoin, of all the Bitcoin transactions that have ever taken place. Okay, so now we'll try and bring it back a bit to the bricks and mortar that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I guess it really comes down to certainty. When we're buying a building, that 6 to 8 week, maybe longer period where we're trying to do all our due diligence to get our heads around what we're buying is based around certainty. It's about ascertaining that what we're buying is really what we think it is. We want to know, all the tenants in the building, how much money it's making, how efficient the building is, if there's any defects with the building. All of this information we're trying to find, but through extensive paper trails. We've got to pay lawyers to go through lots of documents. We've got to get different people involved to make sure and just follow these paper trails all the way around. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort, okay? So imagine if a building had a digital ID, and instead of that blockchain system where we're storing transactions of every Bitcoin transaction, we're just creating a blockchain with every transaction that occurs in the building. So every time a new lease is in, it just goes into the blockchain. And what it would create is, when you brought up a building's ID, is the complete history of that building, everything that's happened in the building, but a completely ordered, digitalized format that's been verified by loads of other users through that decentralized system. And it could literally bring due diligence periods down to under a week. When all of that information is laid out, it's verified, you don't need to go and get a lawyer to check it and sign it off because it's through this verified peer-to-peer system. So what's the conclusion here? Well, first of all, Bitcoin is the buzz, Bitcoin is what everyone's talking about, and Bitcoin's great. There is value in having a currency that can be exchanged globally, immediately, and transaction-free. If you look across globally, there's $200 trillion, US dollars, in cash, stocks, bonds, and gold. If you take 2% of that and put it into cryptocurrency, that will give cryptocurrency a total market cap of $4 trillion, which is about 4 times what it is now. So you can see where the arguments come from people strategizing and thinking of how it could still go up a lot further. But really, it's just a pioneer in this technological era. It's the blockchain technology behind it which generally has the potential to have so much impact in so many different industries. I mean, it's just the beginning. I think it's still very hard to get your head around exactly how much scope it could have, but it's certainly a pretty exciting phenomenon, and I think it's got a long way to go.